Now, the next thing I want to talk about is body alignment. So, if you'll stand up and stand straight. And if you think of a garden hose with water running through it, if it's bent a little, the energy doesn't flow. The water doesn't flow, rather. It's kinked. And so a lot of times when we stand, we might have our weight shifted a little left, a little right, a little bit bent, head to the side. But if you realize the feeling like a pole coming up through the center of the body and down, the body is a very sensitive instrument. And anytime there's a little shift one way or the other, it's like a shift toward yin or yang. And that can cause the musculature and everything to have to compensate on one side. For a little while it can be okay, right? But then there has to be compensation on the other side. So if we're just standing in a straight posture, we want to have the body even. So if you think of a bell, it's even. Same when you're sitting and meditating. The next thing that's taught is the feet are parallel. So sometimes our body types, the feet come apart like so. But in Qigong, you want to keep the feet parallel. And it may take a little training to have your feet like that. And I grip the toes into the ground a little. And the next thing that we do is we bend the knees slightly. Okay? Now, if your hip is back and you do this, it may feel strange. So you want to make sure the hip is tilted forward. And then if your feet are parallel and your hip is tilted forward, what's going to happen is you're going to get kind of a grounding feeling where you're just in the ground and your hips and thighs and knees will stack directly onto your ankles and feet. And then the feet will kind of take the brunt of the weight and they'll develop strength. Sometimes we don't have our feet very connected to the ground. So here we have our knees bent and the hip slightly forward, not thrust real far, but the tailbone's pointing straight down. And the knees are bent and the feet are parallel. And so you get this posture, and you can stand a long time when you get it stacked right. So if you think of stones and your hip being the center keystone, it sits nicely on the legs and feet. Then you want to drop the abdomen in. Okay, so you don't want to tighten it. And also while you're in this posture, it's loose. There's no locking of muscles. So locking muscles in Qigong can cause blockages. So you want the feet gripped to the ground, the knees bent, the hips forward, and the abdomen in. And when the abdomen is in, the back rounds also. So you curl the abdomen in a little, round the back, the shoulders round. They're not dropped forward, but they're rounded a little bit. And the chest is not thrust forward, it's just lifted up a little, because anything that's cramped can cause a blockage. So you want this open, the chest and diaphragm, but you don't have to hold it tightly. And the arms are relaxed, and you leave a little space between the armpits. And that helps for the lymph glands to drain. And the elbows are slightly bent, so you have this kind of curve in the arms, curve in the legs, and curve in the back. And that's called the 5 bows. So you have the 5 bows. So it may take time to develop this, but what I must say is whatever posture you're doing, make sure it's natural. And if you can't do this posture, at least try to find a place where the body can be aligned and straight and no muscles are locked and everything is relaxed, because then the energy flows, okay? Like the garden hose not being blocked, the water flows through it. The next thing, of course, is very important. The head isn't shifted forward, you have it in, the neck is in. And one thing to think about is if you push here a little, not hard, it just pushes the head back a little. So if I was here, I push it there and it aligns the head straight. And then we have the idea of an imaginary thread coming out the top of the head. So the byway is, if you go up the top of the ears, the side of the head, slightly back, think of an imaginary thread drawing the head up. And it's very subtle. It's not like a tight pull, but it's a very subtle feeling that straightens the neck when the chin goes in and you have that thread. So you have that imaginary thread pulling the head up, and you have the feet wading into the ground. So they're connected with the earth. And that's a posture we generally do whenever we are standing straight. Between practices in Qigong, often we'll stop and we take a pause because we want to sit there and relax for a moment. Make sure the body's relaxed. Tune into everything going on in the body and consciously relax it. So we stand after each practice and just put the hands on the abdomen and we relax